Meiser is certainly a timely topic. Why is Meiser a timely topic? So most would think because tshuva, tefilot, tzedakah, mavir nesrei gzeira. And if you think that, that's a beautiful reason. If you think because the Mata Ephraim says is a specific minhag to give Meiser during Elul, to give tzedakah, during Elul, that's a wonderful reason as well. And truth is, in general, as we're going to see, Meiser is a sugya, is a topic that anyone who makes any form of money, and I hope everyone makes some form of money, has to be on top of. And at the beginning of a year, it's apropos to try to understand what is Meiser, what is the backgrounds of Meiser, how does Meiser work, how do we tap into that incredible bracha that we'll talk about in Meiser, and hopefully how do we organize our life so that we could, number one, fulfill this, I know yet to call it a chiyuv, a mitzvah, whatever we're going to coin Meiser Ksafim as, and, maybe even Shaloi Lishma, so that we could get the incredible mitzvah. So where to start? There's really a lot, and I'm going to try my best to cram as much in the half hour as possible. I don't think we're going to get all the way to the end, which is... Maybe we'll do another breakfast. There you go. I don't know if we're going to get to the end, which is, Lamaisa sitting down and calculating your checks and balances, but we'll try to get as much as possible. So, where to begin? I like to begin, of course, with the famous pasuk of Aser Ta'aser, and to explain how does it work. How does it work? We all know Aser Ta'aser, Ashvel Aser Bishvil Shetis Aser. You want to give Meiser? Why? Why do you want to give Meiser? So you ask anyone, why do you want to do any mitzvah? Of course they're going to answer, because they want to fulfill the ratzain of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yet, when it comes to Meiser, you ask any Jew, why do you want to give of Meiser? He says, because I want to be wealthy, I want to be rich. And in as much as one would think that's incorrect, it's not incorrect. As we know that Meiser is the only mitzvah that one is allowed, it's even brought down in Shulchan Aruch, that you're allowed to test Hashem, you're allowed to turn to Hashem, and you're allowed to say, I'm giving Meiser and I want to see it back. And I want to see it back. Whether this is only by Meiser or also by tzedakah is a bit of a machlokes, a bit of a shaylo, but it's certainly by Meiser. Certainly by Meiser. What's the difference between Meiser and tzedakah? Hopefully will come clear as we go along. Reuven Karlinstein, he's a Yerushalmi. How do you pronounce his name? I'm not sure. Okay. Either way, he says over two, we'll call them cute stories, which we'll just use to open up the floor, and then we'll get more into business. He says there was a person that was running out of his house, and his wife says, where are you running to? He says, I'm running to purchase a plot of land for $100,000. And his wife turns to her husband and says, $100,000? It's a lot of money. Where do you have such money? He says, you're right, it's a lot of money. But it's a plot of land that's worth $1 million. For some reason, whatever it is, it's on sale, or, and I can get it for $100,000. And she, not really knowing much, says, but it's $100,000, it's a lot of money. He says, I'm going to get back the $100,000, but I'm getting something for $1 million. That is Meiser. It's a lot of money to give Meiser. It's difficult to give Meiser. It's difficult to give tzedakah. But you give that Meiser, and you get back a lot more. And the Slutzker Rav, there was a woman that came to the Slutzker Rav and complained that she has no money, she has no food, she has nothing. Slutzker Rav says, how much money do you make? She says what she makes. He says, okay, this is what we're going to do. Once a month, I want you to come to me, and I want you to take 1/10 of your meager earnings, a few prutos, a few pennies, and give them to tzedakah. She starts screaming, I came to you for tzedakah, for a bracha, for this and for that. And you tell me to give more? I can't, I have nothing. He says, I don't understand. You just told me you have nothing. So giving a few extra pennies is going to hurt you? What's the big deal? You give a few pennies, give a few prutas. So she says, okay, fine. And she goes, and the first month comes, and she comes to the Rav with a few prutas. He takes it, and he says, okay, Gavaldik, and he gives it tzedakah, gives it to Meiser, gives it to Aniyim, as we'll see. And then the next month, and slowly she starts seeing how her few prutas start growing. How does that happen? This is the test that we're allowed to test HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the Aser te'aser. And just for those who want, in the world of whether you want to call it Hasidus, whether you want to call it Machshava, whether you want to call it Chazal, how does it work? I don't know, so I always thought it works because Hashem says it works. And, that's enough for me. Shulchan Aruch says, you're allowed to test Hashem and finish. But the Kedushas Levi, Rav Levi Yitzchak, explains in the Olamais El Yoinim how it works. I will basically read his words and do a rough job translating. Those who understand, wonderful. And for myself and the rest of us, will at least try to understand. He says the Gemara in Shabbos, let's understand this. Says Rav Levi Yitzchak. What happens when he gives tzedakah? He says, so again, I made $1,000. I take $100. I give it to tzedakah. The $100 goes up to Shemayim. He takes off one. We'll use example 100. When the tzedakah goes up to heaven, so the mitzvah comes in front of Hashem and it looks down. Says, where did I come from? Where did me $100 come from? And what does it see down below? It sees the $1,000 it came from. The dollar came from 10. So what happens? The mitzvah wasn't just the meiser, the 100 you gave. The mitzvah was all the money is oila l'shamayim as a chilek of the mitzvah, and therefore what happens is that other part also wants to go up to heaven. So you gave 100, now the 1,000 wants to go up. In order for the 1,000 to go up, how much do you have to make? 10,000. And then the 10,000 wants to go up. In order for the 10,000 to go up, how much do you have to make? 100,000. Says Rav Levi Yitzchak, that's how aser b'shvil shetis aser. As you give the meiser, whatever that means, the schos, the mitzvah, goes up in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem says, beautiful, where did you come from? You came from $1,000 who also wants to get here? Let me give this person more money so that he could have that schos of giving it. So that's where we're getting to. That's what we all want to do. And now the question really is how to do it. How do we go about giving meiser? So before we even begin, I'm going to give 3 tanoim, 3 stipulations that every person should have in mind, perhaps should articulate when you're beginning, hopefully, to give meiser. And I say hopefully because when we discuss who's the first person to give, the answer is, with all chasadim, who's the first person to give? Yourself. And therefore, you only give meiser if you're in the green, which we'll get to in one moment. But the 3 conditions, anytime you're giving meiser, is, number 1, it's bli neder. It's bli neder. Very important, so much so, Paiskim discuss, what if your father gave meiser? What if your father gave meiser? So that means your father did an incredible mitzvah, wonderful. Say the Paiskim, very possibly, if your father gave meiser, you might have a chiyuv now to give meiser as well, to continue the mitzvah that your father took upon himself as a chiyuv. However, on the flip side, if you give everything b'li neder, then, Meretz Hashem, your children won't have a chiyuv, but they'll of course be able to give. So number 1 is b'li neder, because what if there's a month, what if there's a year, unfortunately, that you're not in the green, and you can't give. You should say that whenever you're giving, most of these things, we'll see, the Paiskim is actually interesting to discuss. Does the Ataras Nadarim they do once every Rosh Hashanah work for the whole year? And does these things work? The Marsham is always busy with these things. Does these things work if you do it once in your lifetime? Okay, as much as possible, but at least, when we'll say that now we're learning about the Chiyuv, and I hope that from when we leave today, we'll understand whether we're within the green bracket to give or not. Hopefully at that point, when you start giving anew, you do it b'li neder. Now someone might be thinking, 1 second, what do you mean when I start giving anew? I always thought maybe that I had a chiyuv, and we're about to discuss in a moment that maybe you don't have a chiyuv. So, but did it become a neder of a mitzvah already? And now why is it such a big deal if it's neder of a mitzvah? I think we mentioned this. The reason it's a big deal neder of a mitzvah is because the Chassam Sofer writes, as amongst many others, that a neder mitzvah has a din of a deraisa. Meaning, something's a derabanan, there are rules within derabanan, makom hatzayirech, etc. If something is a neder, it's a much higher level, ironically. So number one is that it is b'li neder. Number two, we're going to eventually get to who do you give meiser to? Who do you give meiser to? A very big shayla. Is it only for aniyim? Is it for other mitzvahs? So number two is, I'm giving meiser b'li neder, and I want to be able to give it to all the potential causes I want to give it to, which is going to include mitzvahs, etc., etc. And number three, which maybe is most important for all those who came here to learn how to become wealthy, is al pi soid, says the Chafetz Chaim, no one less than the Chafetz Chaim, writes that al pi soid you're supposed to give exactly, precisely 1/10. Now the Shevet HaLevi was very bothered by this, and he says it's not shaykh, and therefore the Shevet HaLevi says in Chelek Simon Kuf Lamed Gimel Leis Gimel, do as much as you could do and leave the rest up to Hashem. But the Chafetz Chaim writes, you should give meiser b'tzimtzum. Why? Kosvu asfarim. He quotes the Svarim. On the bottom over here, they say that this is quoted by the Sefer Kuranim in Maimer Yud Beis, that the soid of meiser, what happens when you give meiser? So we just said from the Kedushas Levi what happens. So says the Chafetz Chaim, quoting Al Pi Kabbalah, what happens is Elef Chamish Meyois Varba Rikian, 1,540 Rikian, heavens, Hamashpian Bracha Lahanoisin Meiser. For the Meiser you give, this 1,540 Rikian, heavens, whatever that means, that are being mashpia bracha to you. Now, what's the number 1540? For all the Gematria people amongst us already got this one. For the rest of us that maybe our pre-first coffee, is minyan aser to aser. Aser to aser. Yeah, this far amongst us, like, yeah, vada aser to aser, 1540, what's the shayla? He was already adding a shake over there, multiplying it by 10. Aser to aser. And actually, Rav Chaim Kanievsky in his Sefer Derech Hamuna quotes this as well. So you want to give it exactly 1/10. What's the problem? Problem is it's very difficult. So what do you do? Do is you say a Tanai. And these things work. You say, I want 1/10 to be Meiser. The more that I give should be tzedakah. You're allowed to give more. You're certainly allowed to give more than a Meiser. We'll get to you're allowed to give up until a Chaimesh. And in truth, even for all those who are very nervous, there are many scenarios you're allowed to give more than a Chaimesh, whether it's for Talmud Torah, whether it's because you're an Usher Muflag, whatever the reason is, that means you're extremely wealthy. And so, halavai, let's say we should all have that big worry about giving more than the Chaimesh. But, so tonight number 3 is that you're giving everything b'tzimtzum. I want 1/10 precisely to be Meiser. And the rest should be tzedakah. Now, how does that work? That works. Don't worry. Hashem is a big computer, and He can figure out how 10th is going to be a Meiser, this is going to be tzedakah, and everything is Gevaldik. So those are the 3 Tanayim, 3 conditions, 3 stipulations that one should be saying when he starts giving off Meiser. Great. Now, do you have to give Meiser? What is the Chiyuv of Meiser? Most people start there. I wanted to start a little backwards. Do you have to give a Meiser? This is one of the again, you never want to say it's the largest misconception, because then someone has to find a larger one. That's just the way we work. But this is one of the largest misconceptions out there. Most people, again, we're not going to take a poll, but most people are of the conception, maybe misconception, that they have a chiyuv to give meiser. I have an obligation. I have to give meiser. And if you were to ask, is that a daraisa? Is that a derabanan? So no one will have any clue. But they'll probably say, what do you mean? Aser to aser? What do you mean? It's a deraisa. It's a pasuk in the Torah. What is the shayla? La halacha lamaisa, when all the dust settles, without getting too intricate, there is a taisus in Tainus, which many people have learned, that quotes this pasuk of aser to aser, and this is all talking about meiser ksafim, talking about cash. I didn't preface that because I noticed there were no farmers here amongst us, but for all those farmers, all those who are planning on being a farmer, or owning agriculture in Eretz Yisrael, then there is a different type of meiser, which is very serious as well. And that's not what we're discussing. In Mirz Hashem, when Mashiach comes, we'll all have to worry about that as well. But we're talking meiser ksafim. It's a massive machlaikas. Is it deraisa? Is it derabanan? Again, there's a Taz, Rav Akiva Eiger, the Bach. When all the dust settles, basically says the Chafetz Chaim in the Sefer Avos Chesed, We paskin, it's neither a deraisa nor a derabanan. So what is it? It's a minhag toif. It's a minhag toif. So some people are listening and saying, minhag toif, givaldik, I got free breakfast, and I just made 10% of my earnings. And I'm getting out of here. And when I come home and the wife complains that the kids are crazy, I tell her, listen, vacation is on the rabbi. That's it, it's finished. So, yeah, there you go. Oh, so you're right. If you want 10%, no problem. It's true. It's a minhag. It's not a binding minhag. Maybe your father gave or not. Al pi pashtus, even if you gave until now, you did not know that it was only a minhag. And therefore, if you did a mitzvah as a neder, mistakenly, big shayla in the paiskim, you thought there was a mitzvah, but then there isn't. Does that become a neder? A big shayla? But the pashtus is that you could be mekalon, you could say, no, I have no obligation anymore. So you could go and get 10% back of your money. Or you could get a lot more than 10%. Or you could test God, try it, lenasoy says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then you can tell your wife, not only are we going on vacation, we're going to go twice. Because I don't only just get 10%, I got a lot more. And what's fascinating, and I personally find this very fascinating, is there, you know, I'm not such a story guy, but certain times the stories are so overwhelming. And you hear stories, it's not just the coup of the year. Those pamphlets don't make it to America anymore. What's going on? Anyone knows what I'm talking about? Yeah. That's what it was. The coup of the year that you read there, and it's like, all the good, everything, We all know all the good jokes, the 80-year-old that had children because she gave to the wrong box, all the different stories. But Lamaisa, if anyone has not heard at least one, if not 5 stories from personal accounts, meaning they themselves, neighbors, friends, relatives, then you're not talking enough to people. And you should talk to people more, and you should ask them. Because the stories of people that go and say, you know what, I heard a shir meiser, I heard that I could test Hashem, I heard that it's a pasik, I heard that the Goyin says, if you're shemer meiser, you're muftach b'kach sh'liyavali dehazik. What better than that? By the way, the Goyin says, what about chaimish? I don't know how much we're going to get in here, so I can't not get this Goyin in here. What about chaimish? What about chaimish? Says the Goyin, v'hashomer chaimish muftach sheyisaser. So the Goyin learns the ashirus, the real wealth, is if you give a chaimish. The 10th, you just don't get a hazik, you get some back. Now, if you're a math guy, it's all exponential. I'm not such a math guy. But if for a 10th, you get a lot, then for a 20th, you get that much more. Yeah, we have an accountant over here. I saw him over there. I was getting nervous. Part 2, it might be only calculator people. But, so, it says the Goyin, your muftach sheyisaser, I believe giving chaimesh has become, Baruch Hashem, popular. It's become very popular. I was a little disappointed. Someone sent me a link. Someone made a website. I think it's like chaimish.com or something. It's something fascinating. And it says all the people that signed up to give chaimish, it only had like 200 and something. It just means people didn't log in. But maybe they're giving more. But there are so many stories of people that extend themselves. And they stop. They say, you know what, Hashem, this is on you. Extra $100 on you, $1,000 on you, $10,000 on you. And when you hear so many stories, and then you see the sources inside, and you see from the Shulchan Aruch to Rav Levi Yitzchak, Pasuk in the Torah, whatever sect of Judaism you want to pull off over here, you have your Haftacha, you have the Goyin, you have the Kabbalah, you have the Chavetz Chaim. How could one not want to give more and more? So yes, we do paskin, it's a minhag toif, and yes, together with the minhag toif, one should say that it is bli neder, because it could be one comes to an unfortunate situation which he cannot give, wonderful, but therefore you should say a bli neder. Now, what does it mean you come to an unfortunate situation you cannot give? Let's go down that route, because this is very common. Again, we hope this is not negayah to anyone. Hopefully this is just negayah to the friend that you'll be talking to later. But even if it's negayah, what does it mean? What it means is, says the Rama in Reish and Aleph Sif Gimel, that parnosas atzmai kodemes. Your parnasa comes first. L'chol adam. Ve'einoi chayiv lasik tzedakah. And you don't have to give tzedakah. Now, again, you all hear this, and you say, okay, Gavaldik, I have to give chaimish, wonderful, to get my right pocket, put in my left pocket, because I have to give, I come first. So this broke out a little bit of a problem. What does it mean, parnosas atzmai kodemes? The Aruch HaShulchan over here, unfortunately, very stingy, literally. Although Rav Bloy from Eretz Yisrael, who wrote the foremost sefer on Staka called Staka Mishpat, he has a whole fascinating way of learning this Aruch HaShulchan, Baruch Hashem. Aruch HaShulchan says, you know what it means, Parnas Atzma Kedamis? Bread and water. That's it. You got your bread and water, finished. Now you're out of that category. Now you have to give Meiser. That is what Aruch HaShulchan learns. If that's the case, then I hope. If anyone told you there, I would say see me. I don't even know if you should see me. We have to see greater people if we're holding up bread and water and mamish, nothing else. And in the world that we live in, Baruch Hashem, when you learn the Gemaras about Aniyim, you realize we don't have such a thing as real poverty. We have poverty, yes, and we have tzedakahs and we have chasadim, and people need. It's not true that people don't need, and people need and people should give. But we don't have what it's a really, someone, we don't have people dying of starvation, Baruch Hashem. That's Aruch HaShulchan. But says the Staka Mishpat, and Rosh Zalman Auerbach says the same. What it means, Parnasas Atzma Kedemes, is within your society and your upbringing, what you are used to living, that comes first. After that, then you have a Chi of Meiser. Now that's very difficult what I just said, because what does that mean? Does that mean 3 vacations to Florida, 2 to the Bahamas, and 4 to Eretz Yisrael? Does that mean, not just the new Tesla is cheap, whatever, what does it mean? What does it mean? What it means is that what's normal. It's very difficult, very, very difficult to define normal in a very abnormal, crazy world that we live to. Let's not go there. It'll become normal soon, don't worry. It's very difficult to define what's normal, but we all know it has to do with where you live. How do we all know that? We all know the Gemara. We all know stories of the Gemara of Tanai and Amarayim, that they themselves went, and he's going to be the guy to lead the horses. He's going to cry in front of him because the wealthy guy lost all his money. What are you doing? He lost his money. He still is fine. What are you going in here? The answer is we support someone day machsoirei. It's a very important word. It means according to his needs. His needs. What that means, and again, each little blurb here we could give a whole share on. What day machsoirei means, and this is a very difficult thing, is we support according to not what I think you need, what you think you need. And this is the answer. We'll use an example that's not really going to get to our world, but hopefully we'll bring out the point. You're sitting in there, Yerushalayim, and a guy knocks on your door, a Yerushalmi guy, and he tells you he's collecting for his, 15th daughter's chasana, and he obviously obligated to buy a dira, an apartment for her, and he needs, 700,000 shekel, and he's coming to collecting. And immediately your brain tells you, number one, who told you to have 18 kids? Number two, who told you to obligate yourself to buy 15 kids? Who told you to obligate to buy an apartment? And number three, what in the world do you have to do with me? Go get a job. That's what our brains unfortunately say. The answer is, whether you're right or whether you're wrong, that's between him and God after 120. But Lamaisa, he has a need. Dei machsoirei, he has a need. And it happens to be, if you know the Yerushalmi culture, his need is valid. It's his culture, his lifestyle, how he grew up. He looks at us sitting here drinking all these fancy drinks that they don't even know what they are. It's what you need, water, not even the water from the bottle. It's water from the sink. We spend money on water. They don't even understand our world. So, but in his world, that's what he needs. Dei machsoirei means you support according to his needs. His needs. Okay, so now let's circle back around. That should help a lot of the issues that we have with different tzedakahs and different chasadim, and we always question, what are they doing this? It's not our place to question them. If you're in a position to question, then question. Someone just told me he's involved in an incredible tzedakah endeavor, and he's, it's one of these older organizations, and he's the new guy, and he's trying to make reform and make change, and beautiful. He's in it. So when you're in it, and if you can make change, kol hakavod, beautiful. But if you're not in it, from the outside, our job is to be the ones to support. But let's circle back around. We're discussing when you have an obligation to give meiser. The answer is when you have your basic needs met. Basic needs means you have your normal level of living. And does that include probably a vacation once a year? Probably. Does that include having a car to drive? Probably. Does that include, again, any example I give could be questioned, does that include having cleaning help at some level? Probably. So once all of that is met, now, if you're in the green, now, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another reason why no one's chayiv. Now, if you're in the green, then you have a chiyuv. then you have a chiyuv. If you're not, you support yourself. But
What's it, is the 10% of the leftover?
good. So what? No, once you're, this is the irony. This is a very difficult point for the brain to comprehend. Thank you for pointing that out. Once you're in the green, then it's all green. You don't subtract all those expenses.
Not deductions.
Business expenses, though, you do. Again, this is where it gets very technical. And this part of this year, I apologize if you wanted to hear all the technical details and you didn't get that. But this is the technical details are what are you allowed to subtract. I'm going to give, we're 25 minutes in. In 2 minutes, I'll read off just basically a list of what you could deduct and what you can't deduct. Basically, the idea is the business could be deducted because the business has to also be in the green. You're not going to say that what I spend on the business, I'm spending money to make money. Of course, you're not going to give off nicer. If I buy merchandise, if I buy 100 pairs of shoes for $1,000, okay, and I sell them for $5,000, so obviously that first $1,000 you're not giving nicer off of because you had to get the item. So then, of course, you're only going to give nicer off of the remaining $4,000. Now, it's not so simple, and we have an accountant here who could confirm all this. It's not so simple, 1 second, that it goes with taxes. Because if you have a good accountant, and I'm assuming we'll endorse our local accountant. If you have a good accountant, then Baruch Hashem, they work wonders. They work wonders. But that's not the way Meiser necessarily l'toiv and l'mutav. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Sometimes you'll be giving more, sometimes less. Yes.
Very, very often happens
Yeah.
that you make money in a business.
Good.
But you're not taking the money.
Good. We're getting there.
The business to grow.
Good. Okay, we're getting there. So this is what we're going to do. Again, we could go for a very long time. I'm going to mention, we have 3 minutes left. We have 3 minutes left. So I'm going to mention, I start over here the points that from my familiarity are going to be the things that people are going to ask. That was one of them. That was one of them. When you actually calculate, that's actually number one. And then we'll go through the basic list, and then, we can either talk privately or we'll have a part two when we could actually go through, how's the Lamaisa. But now, the mindset. Let's give the mindset. What's the mindset of Meiser? Chavis Alvavis writes, the mindset of Meiser is, money is not yours. Hashem gives you money, but part of the money Hashem gives you is to give away. You are the Gizbar. You are the Gabbai. You are the person in charge of giving away Hashem's money. This is how the Chavis Alvavis writes it. Continues the Chavis Alvavis. If you're a good Gizbar, if you're a good employee, what happens to good employees? They get bonuses. They get more money. If you show your boss, you gave me $1,000 and I give away 100. He says, Givaldik, let me give you 10,000. Let's see, will you give away 1,000? You gave away 1,000, let me give you 100,000. And he keeps on giving more and more the more we show Hashem that we're being a good partner with him. Now, more than just the mindset that actually halachically is going to tell us many answers to questions. With the knowledge of the beginning of this year that Meiser is a minhag, and we're making our stipulations that it's bli neder. Now, how often do you calculate Meiser? The answer is you're partners with God. You have a good partnership. Figure it out. There's no one answer. Meaning, some people say when I give taxes once a year, when I figured out the end of my thing, there I have a number. Obviously, I know it's not really taxes. I know this is in and this is out. On that number, I give Meiser. But then the question is, what do you mean? But I have investments. And the investments, the money just gets reinvested. So how am I going to do that? And maybe certain things are declarable, certain things aren't declarable. Maybe certain things are in certain accounts and aren't in certain accounts, so they don't come up to your taxes yearly. So how often do I give that? So the answer is you're allowed to even let it roll year to year. It's not necessarily year. Now many suggest that at least it should be at least once a year. But when it comes to certain investments, it's not shaykh, just not shaykh. And therefore, you're allowed to do it whenever you cash out. You're allowed to do it when you cash out, but you just have to have an accounting. Meaning, you might have investment A, which is going to sit for 5 years. Great. You cash out investment A, and now the money you put into that investment, let's speak it out. You put, I don't know if I should use big numbers or small numbers. I don't know what is a big number, what is a small number. I was going to say $100,000, someone tell me that's a small number, someone tell me that's a big number. Okay, you put $100,000 away for 5 years. Baruch Hashem, beautiful. That $100,000, did you take off Meiser already? The answer is, of course I did. That was money I made. I slowly stockpiled it, and now it's sitting. Givaldik. It sits for 5 years. What am I making in 5 years?
200.
200?
Double your money. Yeah.
Double your money in 5 years? Psh, this is nice. Business tips over here.
Money in 7 years.
7 years.
So 180.
7 years. Okay,
Make sure
let's
the-
just go
make sure the
200.
rabbits and all
Yeah,
that.
don't worry. Yeah. I don't take care of money in my life. The halachic portion I do. The 200, you get the 200, good? So what do you get Meister off of? Just that 100, just the second 100. Now let's say you reinvest it. So you just have to earmark what was Meister and what wasn't. Same thing with stocks. You put money in, it's going up, it's going down, it's going up, it's going down. You're also, which I think is obvious, but just to speak it out, things could balance off each other. If I made 100 here and I lost 50 here, we look at a sum total. Look at a sum total of what's going on.
I lost something to give me a tax.
Yeah, exactly. Now, taxes, if you get money in that, fine. That's in how often you calculate. Number 2, are you allowed to pre-meiser? Allowed to pre-meiser, meaning it's before Rosh Hashanah, you finish up last year's cheshbon, it's right after Rosh Hashanah, and you want to give meiser, but you have no meiser yet. Or you have meiser, you don't have enough, you want to give more. Are you allowed to pre-meiser? The answer is yes. You have a good partner. If you go over to your partner and you say, can I take out this, can I put in this? Of course you could. What's the problem? So you pre-meiser. Again, you always should have the mindset that I'm borrowing money and I'm going to pay the money back. It's a partnership between you and Hashem. When it comes to tuition is a big sugya, very big sugya, which I'm not going to even touch right now. It depends on the age of the kids, etc., etc. But one thing which is conclusive: tips, and extras that you are giving. That for sure could come from Meiser, meaning you're giving to the teacher, you're giving to the Mora, you're giving to the whatever.
Dinner?
That is, school dinner pashtas could come from Meiser as well. All the extras could come from Meiser because that is tzedakah. Money given to a shul could give to Meiser. Membership. It's a little technical, but the answer is, in our world, the answer is usually yes. If there was a world that you had, like, basically if it's voluntary, the answer is yes. And most of I hope the world we live in, membership is mandatory but voluntary, meaning everyone works with each other. If it's not shaykh, I'll just talk for ourselves over here. Of course, if someone can't give, what are we going to do? We're not going to. Back, you should know, in the nostalgic world of Chazal, you had a chiyuv, meaning it was like a tax. They came with a bill. The guy came to collect. Whoever's learning Daf Yomi will sell you as an Eved if you want. Well, we don't live in that world for good. Yeah, we don't kick you out of shul. We don't not give you a seat, etc., etc. Pashtas, aliyas, and all those things you could give. For extras, you want to give, for example, we're sitting here at a breakfast. Let's say, apparently, I was told they didn't sell the sponsorship of this breakfast. The shul wanted this chus itself. Okay, the shul wants to get wealthy. Didn't want to give away this chus. Oh, now he posted. Okay. But let's say, there you go. But let's say you want to know, can you give meiser to something like that? The answer is, let's be honest, you all love me dearly. If there wasn't food here, I think we'd have a lot less people sitting and listening about this. That means that the food is an integral ingredient to the Torah. So you made a tanai that you're giving your meiser to where? Not just aniyim, also mitzvahs. That was tanai number 2, and therefore you'd be allowed to give it. We're going to conclude because really, we really could go for a very, very, very long time, and maybe aliyahs pashas you could give for also. It actually gets a little bit technical, but Emir Tashem, we will have a part 2. We're just going to conclude with the words of the Ramban, which is a medrash. Says, and the first half of the medrash we all know. The second half, I think most people don't know. The third half, no one knows. This is, I heard a shir from Ray Welcher from Queens, an Adam Gadol Ad Ma'oi. That's how he broke it down, and I think you'll all agree. The first part of the medrash said, Chuma says, Aser ta'aser, Aser b'shvil she'tisaser. Beautiful. Medrash continues. Why else should you give off meiser? Aser sheloi tischaser. Give off meiser so you don't lose money. Says the Chavetz Chaim, you know what that means? There's certain aveirus that unfortunately carry with them a punishment of poverty. Rahman al-Islam, we should never know of such things, but it happens. And maybe you committed such a crime, and you stand there before Rosh Hashanah, and it's about to be decreed to you, Rahman al-Islam, that's it, fire, no money, ani is poverty. No. Aser bishvil shaloi tischaser. You turn to your partner and you gave off meiser, Hashem says you're not going to lose out. Number 3. Remez l'mefarshe yam l'hoitzi echad me'asara. It's a remez. That's what we see. It's not a deraisa. He's learning just a remez, the medrash. Remez is a little bit difficult what the word remez always means. That l'mefarshe yam, business people have to give meiser. Because obviously aser ta'aser is talking about grains. And he says, who should he give it to? le'amale Torah, says the Medrash. The real quintessential, prototypical Spitz Meiser is supposed to be the creation, we could say. If you go back to the nostalgic world of giving off grains and whatnot, give it to the Kohen, give it to Levi. Why you give it to the Kohen and Levi if you think about it? Because Hashem has designed a society that works. Kohanim and Leviim are busy serving God. They're helping us. They're working the Beis HaMikdash for us. So what do? We support them. That was the design. That's the way it worked. The example that he gave is in the cultural arts. Carnegie Hall does not subside only from the tickets that they sell. They subside in corporate sponsorships. Why are corporate sponsoring Carnegie Hall? Why do they care? Because even in the Goyish society, there's a concept that there's culture, there's arts, there's things that run so deep that we want as a society to exist, so we support them. So we as Yidden, what's our society to exist? Our society is the Kohanim Leviim, is the Amalei Torah. It's Amalei Torah really includes Aniyim. It's a little bit difficult how to explain that, but it includes Aniyim. And with that, we'll conclude. Is that really, even with the Tanai, you made a Tanai, I'm giving for mitzvahs, and you heard I could give for the Kiddush, and I could give, hopefully you can have sponsorships everywhere. And you could give for this, and you could give for that. It's true. But what is number one? Number one really is for the Aniyim, and best would be for Amalei Torah. So the Chavetz Chaim, and with this we conclude, says, you know what the best thing to do is? We said you should be giving chaimish. Should be. If one is able to, if one wants a lot of money, if you want the promise of the Goyim to be wealthy, you give a chaimish, give a 20th. How do you give a 20th? Says the Chavetz Chaim, you take off 1/10, and you give that to Aniyim, to Amalei Torah. And then you take off the next 10th, and you use that for all your mitzvahs and all your whatnot. And it happens to be, it's a very nice mindset. Often you're not sure, should I give here? The answer is, you first worry about the Aniyim. Now, but of course, you also want to be able to give for mitzvahs. You want, fine. So that's the second. And the schos, we all know that the number one schos of Talmud Torah is as you were mekuyim it. So I believe that from here, just from learning the halachas of tzedakah, of meiser, is the first chelik of tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, ma'avir nezuraya hagezera. But more than just ma'avir nezuraya hagezera, v'siyata d'shmaya, all the brachas. Everyone should test Hashem. Test Hashem and come back with your beautiful stories. Come back with your incredible meises. How you went home and he said, you know what? Extra $1,000. And within a few, keep your eyes open. That's the one thing you have to do. When you test Hashem, sometimes is you yell at God, I'm testing you. And then you forget to look when he gives it back to you. And he hands it back, and then you start making all the excuses. Oh no, I knew that was gonna come. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. What are you lying for? Hashem just handed you the money. And in Mirz Hashem, we should all have the incredible schos of Torah, schos of tzedakah, shkoyach Rabbi Yisrael.